All right, everybody. Welcome to the Contextual Christian Church Bible study, where today we're going to read Esther chapter 6, verses 1 to 14. I'm going to pray it in. Everybody bow your heads. Father, thank you for making sure that we got on this Bible study. Not finishing, but we're still going through Esther chapter by chapter, but it's still a good story. So let's go ahead and just get into it and get started. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Charles, I told you this a long time ago. This is an example, today's summary of why, when you're explaining the summary, you can't just say what we read last time sometimes. Because if I say only what we read last time as bringing that up in the summary, this is a perfect example. I was just thinking about it before I was going to go into the summary. This is a perfect example where if I just explain what we read last time and nothing else, the context makes no sense. And I want you guys to pay attention, both of you, Thomas and Charles, because this is what it would be like if I only explain what we read last time without including the necessary context from the previous chapters. Esther went to go see the king and asked the king to have Haman and the king to get together, and she's going to make a meal for them. And she also has, and Haman, even though he's happy about that invite, it's not going to satisfy him unless he gets to see Mordecai, the Jew, sitting in front of the king's gate. Now, you guys see that, right, Thomas and Charles? That's literally everything summarized of what we read yesterday. But does that have enough context for somebody who's coming in to understand what we read?
No.
Uh,
Because didn't we talk about yesterday him being hanged? They were trying to build like a what was it called? A gallows for him to be
Mm-hmm.
hanged
But who
and
with him who?
Mordecai to be hanged. But the reason why even Mordecai's even getting all this problems in the first place through Haman, you have to bring that up. So I see what you're saying. Why does Haman even want to kill him in the first place?
Exactly. But not even just that. Thomas, do we even understand? Like, if we only have that context, then why does it matter that that Esther wants Haman and the king to have a be at the banquet? Because
exactly.
we don't have that information, right? If we only say just what was read last time.
Hmm.
And if I were to tell you that the queen asked for both the king and one of the captains of the guard to be at the banquet, there's a possibility she's scheming evil. There's a whole slew of possibilities as to why she could be doing that. Some positive, some negative. All because we don't have that context. And because we don't have that context, if we stick solely to what we read last time, then we wouldn't understand what we're actually getting into today. So keep in mind when the time comes for when you guys do a summary. If you need to bring up previous chapter portions, something of previous chapters in the summary for the day, in order for the summary of the day to actually be summarizing what we're reading, to be understanding of what we're reading, don't hesitate to do that. Because what matters in the summary is first and foremost, yes, we want to simplify, but, and second, the most importantly, beyond just simplification, is to understand what we read before so that we can understand what we're about to read. It's kind of like in Dragon Ball Z when Goku's about to fight Frieza and you see him go Super Saiyan. Well, when we're going into the next episode, all you see is, and all they bring up is that Goku is fighting Frieza. They don't show the Super Saiyan. They don't even show him turning yellow. You might think that his hair is just naturally yellow. You might just think they had a blonde hair, blue eyed character. There's a lot of things that are missing from that. And it's literally just the other episode. If you have the episode where Goku is having fun with Boo and the pink character alien that kills the entire universe, right after you're explaining, the last thing that you explain is literally they were fighting Boo with no context of how he was brought back, then how did they become friends? You might not think that he actually killed anybody. So in other stories, even in anime or other everything, if you don't have the lead up information that's necessary, you're not going to understand the full context of what you're reading at the time. So, with that in mind, the full context that's missing from last time that needs to be said is this: Haman hates Mordecai and all Jews because Mordecai refused to bow to him in worship. And the reason Mordecai would not bow to Haman in worship is because Mordecai is Jewish and only supposed to bow to God. So from that, Haman tricked, or as far as we could tell, but minimum, he got the king to sign a decree that all the Israelites or the group of people, as he kept them secret, he said a certain group of people. He didn't specify the Israelites. But from his perspective, to get them all to be killed in a certain day. So Mordecai and Esther are working together to try to get the king to overturn the decision, to overturn the decree. And in the meantime, the reason why Haman wants Mordecai to come to the gate is that he has set up some gallows, or in other words, a place to hang people so that when Mordecai shows up, they could snatch up Mordecai and hang him. All because of Haman's ego being hurt. All of this stems back from Haman's ego being hurt and Mordecai standing for what's right, even at the risk of his life. So, that's with the missing context for the summary. So now I'll go ahead and switch it to our first section so our first reader can read. And go ahead, Thomas, when you're ready, and make sure to speak up.
All right, I'll be reading Esther, chapter 6, verses 1 through 5. Give it a couple seconds. On that night could not the king sleep, and he commanded to bring the book of records of the Chronicles, and they were read before the king. And it was found written that Mordecai had told of Bigthana,
Yeah, she a big thana. Big thana.
Bigthana, and Teresh, two of the king's chamberlains, the keepers of the door, who sought to lay hands on the king Ahasuerus. Ahasuerus.
Ahasuerus.
Ahasuerus. My bad.
You're
And the
good.
king said, "What honor and dignity have been done to Mordecai for this?" Then said the king's servant that ministered unto him, "There is nothing done for him." And the king said, "Who is in the court?" Now Haman was come into the outward court of the king's house to speak unto the king to hang Mordecai on the gallows that he had prepared for him. And the king's servant said unto him, Behold, Haman standeth in the court. And the king said, Let him come in. Let me gather some information real quick.
No problem.
Okay, so pretty much we got it here where the king he can't sleep, so he commands them to bring the book of records of the Chronicles, and they end up reading it to him. And in that, they found written how Mordecai was the one who told about the two people who tried to kill the king. So the king asks, "What type of honor did he receive for this?" And the servant responds, "He didn't receive any type of honor for this." So then the king follows up with another question, asking, "Who's in the court?" And then servant answer says it's Saman, and he pretty much tells him to come in, and that's where we end up at.
You missed a very important part you need to bring up.
What section? What verse?
4.
4. Hold on. And the king said, "Who is in the courts?" Now Haman was come into the. Oh yeah, right. So Haman shows up to the court to talk about hanging
Not
Mordecai.
shows up. Where did it say shows up?
So let me change that word real quick.
Mm-hmm.
It says he come into the outward of the court to speak unto the king. But that's so he does that, and he is trying to speak unto the king regarding to Mordecai and getting him hung.
You still, yeah, good. The first part. And the king said, "Who is in the court?" Now Haman was come into the outward court of the king's house to speak unto the king. So the point of there is not to say that he showed up. The point is of the explanation needed there is to say why he was there. The whole reason he came there was he was trying to get Mordecai hanged. Now this is important for a very interesting reason. Why does it matter to point out that he was there to have him hanged based, and here I'm giving a context for the question, based on your section alone, Thomas? What other
They were
thing does
literally
impact?
they were literally just talking about how Mordecai was the one who let them know regarding to the two guards who was trying to do the king dirty. And he's sitting here saying, "Oh, he didn't receive no type of honor for that." And then we have freaking Haman showing up, trying to get the dude killed. So clearly, that may right there, this is a possibility. I'm throwing it out there that may right there get Haman killed, because now the king may look at him differently. Because if Mordecai was trustworthy enough to save the king, then obviously Haman is the one on the opposite side of the spectrum.
That's good. That's an impact. That's an effect. But that's not the most important because the cause is the difference in the here. So let me give Charles a chance and then I'll say the answer. So what is the biggest reason why it matters? I should have said it like that the first time. Why does it matter that Haman is doing this? But only based on Thomas's section. Charles?
I don't have an answer. Based off of just this, I don't have an answer.
All right. Thomas brought up the effect, but the cause is what matters more. Mordecai is in a position where you have one side where the king is wanting to bless him, is wanting to do something good to him, honor him because of him saving the king's life. While on the other side, Haman wants to kill Mordecai So you got conflicting causes. Now, what you brought up, Thomas, that is true. That is a possibility. It could lead to Haman's death, but that's not necessarily guaranteed. When the king finds out and goes to get Haman and finds out that this is what was happening, the king could just kick out Haman from being in service to the king. Or the king could tell Haman to forgive Mordecai for this and to not mess with him no more. There could be a warning. See, there's multiple effects that could come from this. Or because he didn't bow to Haman after the king had already, it could work against Mordecai. Oh, well, yeah, he did spare my life, but then he disrespected the top guard guy, the captain of the guard for me, or the captain, in other words, in general, not even just the guard, second in command type thing. So the impact of this, because their thoughts conflict and their causes conflict, is one side is going to have to give in. But we don't know which side is going to give in. You see why that's even more of a big deal, Thomas, is the causes rather than the effects?
Yeah.
All right, Charles, you got that too?
Now I do.
All right. Now then, does anybody have any comments or questions as we go to the second section? Now would be the time to raise your hands. All right, then go ahead, Charles, when you're ready.
All right, I'll be reading Esther chapter 6, verses 6 to 10. I'll give it a couple seconds. Verse 6. So Haman came in, and the king said unto him, what shall be done unto the man whom the king delighted to honor? Now Haman thought in his heart, to whom would the king delight to do honor more than to myself? And Haman answered the king, for the man whom the king delighteth to honor, let the royal apparel be brought, which the king useth to wear, and the horse that the king rideth upon, and the crown royal which is set upon his head. And let this apparel and horse be delivered to the hand of one of the king's most noble princes, that they may array the man withal whom the king delighted to honor, and bring him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaim before him, thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delighteth to honor. Then the king said to Haman, make haste and take the apparel and the horse, as thou hast said, and do even so to Mordecai the Jew, that sitteth at the king's gate. Let nothing fail of all that thou hast spoken. This is interesting. I need to explain this first before I get into the really interesting part. So Haman goes up to the king, and the king is like, what should be done to this person that I find favor and that I find favor and I want to honor? And Haman, he's thinking to himself, who else could the king want to? Who else is the king going to do this to more than me? So then Haman responds, "Oh, here's how you want to honor him and delight him. Put him with the best apparel, the king's apparel. Have him ride on a horse." with the king's apparel and a crown on his head and ride through the streets. So be it, Haman. I need you to set this up for Mordecai, the Jew. Yeah, go ahead and get that done for me, please. Now, the reason why this is interesting to me is at the end he says Mordecai the Jew, but Haman is talking about getting rid of the Jew. No, he didn't say Jews. He didn't. Never mind. Take back what I said. Because when we did our Bible study days ago, he didn't say Jews. He said a certain group of people. He didn't specify that they were Jews. So the king knows that Mordecai's a Jew. This is a possibility. It's going to end bad for Haman because he didn't tell the truth to the king when he initially wanted to get rid of the Jews.
And that does confirm something too. What does that confirm that we weren't sure about before?
I thought I just brought it up. There's more. I gotta remember. Give me a little bit to think about it.
Oh,
There's
it's on
more.
the same lines, but not quite the same phrasing. It is on the same lines.
Wait, does this confirm that he knows Esther's a Jew?
No,
I
that's not the
wonder.
part. All right, Thomas, what got confirmed from what Charles just brought up?
Um, if it's not in regards to the punishment for Haman, I don't know. I don't know.
All right. What this confirms is that when the king signed the decree and when it's gone out, Haman had successfully tricked the king, that the king did not know that he was talking about the Jews. It was up in the air before because right afterwards, he's eating with Haman and he's enjoying. And he put out this decree, but we don't know if the king knows that the decree is talking about the Israelites. So there was a possibility that he signed it and everything, knowing who it was talking about, and just setting aside Esther. We've seen that with racist slave owners in America, in the history. There are times where even though they hated black folk, thought of them as less than, they would still marry black women. So just because you hate a group does not mean you won't make an exception for the woman that you like that's of that group. That has happened many times historically. So contextually, there was two ways we could look at that. Either one, the king is making an exception for Esther, or two, the king didn't know that the group that Haman was talking about was the Israelites. But because he pointed out here saying Mordecai the Jew, we now can confirm 100% that it wasn't that he was making an exception for Esther. It was that he didn't know that the decree was about the children of Israel. Because if he sent out the decree knowing he's going to kill everyone of the children of Israel, then there would be no point in honoring someone of Israel just before they're about to die. Do you see what I'm saying? Thomas and Charles?
Yeah, I see what
Absolutely.
you're saying.
So that's what got confirmed through this. All right. Now, with that in mind, Charles, go ahead and continue your explanation.
Well, let me go back because that's all I wanted to say for my explanation and that one interesting fact of him calling them the Jew, Mordecai the Jew. Um,
Okay. Then
yeah, that's
I'll
all I
add a
wanted to
couple
bring up.
parts. I think it's funny and hilarious how God works. Remember, we live in a willful destiny. Nothing happens outside of God's will, but we do still have the power of choice. We can choose to do right, we can choose to do wrong. And if it's according to God's will, there are times where things will be outside of our control. But for the most part, we do have choice. And then, of all people to bless Mordecai through, God uses Haman, the one who wants to kill Mordecai. The way that worked out and the irony of it is so crazy. You wanted to kill him because he didn't bow down to you. And now, because of you, he's going to be honored as a king's hero. Just crazy work. Amazing the way God works. But, anyways, now I'll go ahead and switch it to the next section. But in the meantime, does anybody have any comments or questions about the second section as we go to the final one for today? Now would be the time to raise your hands. All right, then go ahead, Thomas, when you're ready.
I'll be reading Esther chapter 6, verses 11 through 14. Give it a couple. Then took Haman the apparel and the horse, and arrayed Mordecai, and brought him on horseback through the streets of the city, and proclaimed before him, Thus shall be thus shall it be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor. And Mordecai came again to the king gates. But Haman hasted to his house mourning, and having his head covered. And Haman told Zeresh, his wife, and all his friends everything that had befallen him. Then said his wife, Nan and Zesra, hold on one second. I'm back. Hold on one second, guys. Okay. Then said his wise men and Zeresh, his wife, unto him, If Mordecai be of the seed of the Jews, before whom thou hast begun to fall, thou shalt not prevail against him, but shall surely fall before him. And while they were yet talking with him, came the king's chamberlains, and hasted to bring Haman unto the banquet that Esther had prepared. Look at this guy. All right, give me a second, guys.
One other thing I forgot to bring up from the other one while you're trying to figure out this one is that the fact of the whole the conversation that Mordecai had with Esther about worrying about herself instead of doing right, and how if she's not going to be the one to deliver the children of Israel, God will find another way. And if God does find another way, don't sit here and think that you'll be spared, because you and your house will be destroyed. And then afterwards, we have this happen. We haven't even gotten to the banquet yet. It hasn't even happened yet. And yet, they were already in process to be delivered. So even without Esther's help, it's still in process for them to be saved from this. So imagine thinking from the outside looking in, that conversation looking at that now. If it's not you, God would find another way. And who knows if it's meant for you to do the whole reason you're in the kingdom is for this. Well, in part, yeah. But it honestly, just like he pointed out, this is proof that it wasn't necessary. It's funny to be able to see your possible fall without actually falling because you chose to do the right thing. All right, go ahead, Thomas, when you're ready.
All right. So we have Haman doing as the king requested, bringing all the apparel and the horse, and he scoops up Mordecai, takes him to the king's gate. And when he takes him to the king's gate, he duck off in secret, trying to be all discreet with it. And he goes to his house and he let his people know, his wife and the wise men that are there, and regarding to everything that took place. And they pretty much tell him like, look, let me read this. Let me read that to you real quick. Then said his wise men and Zeresh his wife unto him, If Mordecai be of the seed of the Jews, for whom thou hast begun to fall, thou shalt not prevail against him, but shalt surely fall before him. So they saying, bro, you're not about to prevail against Mordecai, especially if the king is he's the one that the king chosen. Sorry. The, the king, I can't even freaking. Mordecai is the one that the king chose, and so they're pretty much saying you're likely the one to fall because of this. And then in the midst of all that, we have the chamberlains coming to his house to pick him up for the banquet that Esther had prepared, and that's it.
Well, you said if he's one of the ones that the king chose.
I'm talking about Mordecai.
Yeah. But I'm saying that, where did it say that?
Hold on one second. Right, that's why I was getting a little mixed up. Hold on one second. Then said his wife.
I know what you
My
were
bad.
trying
Be
to
of the seed
say.
of the Jews. Yeah. Hold on, hold
You
on,
were
hold
trying
on,
to
hold on.
say one of the
Give me one
chosen
second.
people. That's where your mind was at when you said the king chose.
Mm.
Because God is the king of kings and they're the chosen people. So I get where you were getting at. I know your
I'm gonna just
point. You just
yep.
explained it wrong.
Yeah, I was kind of tied up, as you guys could see.
Hmm. Remember, and I'm going to say this as many times as is needed. Remember to think through your thoughts before you explain. And to top it off, make sure you're getting like your nose cleared or breathed out because you do sound like you're also out of breath a little bit. So maybe if like you're trying to breathe through the talking and not having those pauses, it screwed you up on your speaking. That could be possibly part of it. But anyways, yeah, exactly as your point you were getting at is. He's one of the chosen people. Not chosen of the king, but of the chosen people of God. So their point, and this is funny because would Haman know this, Thomas?
Nope. No, he would not. Can you hear me?
I
Yeah, I
heard.
heard you.
Regarding to Mordecai, no.
All right. Charles?
I'm trying to remember what we read when this whole thing started. Um. Oh man,
All right.
I
Mm.
don't remember.
Okay.
That's the
The
and like, cause
answer
what
is
we
Thomas.
go ahead, Matt.
Haman, when he tricked the king into the decree, what did it say he hated after Mordecai didn't bow down? He put the decree against all Jews. Well, in order to put the decree against all Jews, you would have to know that he's a Jew. But not only that, look at everything that has happened to them. Remember, this time frame of when this is all taking place is also in the time frame of Ezra, after the king has already said that the Jewish folk are to be blessed and taken care of, in other words, financially, whatever they need to build the temple and whatever they need to be taken care of, as he had decreed, that's all happened at this timeline, the same time era.
Okay, so let me ask you
To the
this.
king. Hmm.
Sorry, I cut out. I didn't know you were still talking. My bad. So,
No, you're good.
in reference to being chosen, you're speaking on the Israelites in this entirety. So he knew that they were the chosen people, not the chosen one.
Yeah. I mean, where does it say the chosen one here?
You said chosen one. I heard
No,
you
I
say
said
chosen one.
ones. Chosen ones. There was an
Oh,
S
okay,
there.
okay, gotcha.
So Haman would have known this because everything that happened historically and even the decrees from the kings. He would have known that the Jewish folk are not somebody to be trifled with. All the different failures, everything going on with the people who come against them. And to top it off, you got the king who has already blessed them, already said, and came against other kings who tried to come against them. So there's plenty of evidence, both in the past and in the current era of where we're reading, where Haman would have known you don't mess with the Jewish folk if you do. So what does that show about Haman? He don't care. Haman don't care about the possible consequences. All he cares about is respected. Now, where have we seen that before, Thomas? Caring more about being disrespected than about the consequences.
Hmm. Something tells me Saul.
No, no, I meant more like, let me give
More
Charles, I
recently.
said, where have we seen that before?
Oh, okay.
Charles?
I was about to bring up the chief priests and the scribes. About to bring up some that we
I like the
had a worship
ideas you
service, a
guys
Bible study.
have, but we don't even need to go that far in history. You guys see that on a regular basis in your own lives.
Well,
I've
we
seen
got
that on a
some that
regular basis in my own life.
Charlie Kirk situation. I could bring that one up because we don't
It
see it.
literally just happened.
Yeah, the
Yep.
Charlie Kirk situation.
Charlie Kirk got killed because somebody felt disrespected by his points of view. But here's the thing, that person, they care more about being disrespected than about the consequences. If they get caught, they're serving time possibly. But we also see that in impoverished neighborhoods as well, urban neighborhoods. You ain't gonna call me out my name. I ain't gonna let you sit here and disrespect me. We see that in our lives on a regular basis. Matter of fact, for me personally, there is only one thing that really gets me so mad that I will react in a sinful way. And it's something I've worked hard to get past. And it has to be an extreme version of it. It can't even be a small thing. Being disrespected. I can feel so disrespected that I react sinfully in my anger. When I'm on the phone and dealing with my company, and this is one of the ones I've slipped up with recently, on the phone with my company, and they're not listening and they're over talking, I'm explaining the same thing 50,000 times because they're not listening when I'm speaking. That disrespectful behavior has gotten me to the point of yelling at them and cussing at them. But is that right for a Christian to do? No. Is that right for how a pastor should behave? No. So it doesn't matter if somebody disrespects me. As long as they don't try to kill me, harm me, physically attack me, then everything else needs to wash away. But that's the thing. Haman was the same way. He don't care about the consequences from messing with the Israelites. All he cares about is feeling disrespected from Mordecai not bowing to him. So he's willing to do this anyways. All right, does that make sense, Thomas and Charles?
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
Haman about Haman.
Yeah. Exactly, exactly. Now, does anybody have any comments or questions before we pray out the Bible study portion? Now would be the time to raise your hands. All right, then Thomas, go ahead, unmute and pray us out. Don't forget to speak up.
I'm gonna pray it out. I'm gonna pray it out, Matt. I'm
Oh,
gonna pray it out.
Charles is? Okay.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But
Your thing's going in and out. Try it again.
didn't you pray us in?
Yeah, but I said I was gonna read second and pray it out.
Oh, okay. Because remember, it's supposed to be one praise in, one praise out. You
All
can
right.
go ahead and
But
pray us out this
yeah,
time, but next
this
time
time I will.
you pray us in, Thomas prays us out, so he can
All
get
right,
involvement in the prayer as well.
all right. Everybody, go ahead and bow your heads. Father, thank you for giving us this funny chapter of Esther and this funny Bible study, but also a good lesson in basically how Haman is and the correlation of Haman and how we can see other examples of that, not just in what we brought up in, but other examples we see just in everyday life. And I pray that with every Bible study, we can continue having those reminders of those examples and continue growing and learning. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. All right. So tonight's Bible listening is from Joshua chapter 14 through to Ruth chapter 4. And let me know when you guys got that. I mean,
Okay.
not I said that wrong. I was looking at the wrong one. Joshua 14 to Judges 2.
Judges 2. All right.
Got it.
They both was like Joshua goes to 13 and then Judges goes to 13. So I slipped up on which one I was looking at. But last night was Joshua chapter 1 to 13. And Thomas, were you able to do yours? Don't forget to unmute, Thomas. I can't hear you.
My bad. I have it, but let me go second. I gotta get it together.
All right. Now, because of my truck situation and everything, I wasn't able to do it myself. So what we'll do is we'll go in the order for tonight's explanations or what stuck out to us. We'll go Charles and then Thomas, and then we'll close it out.
You got it. Um, this one more should have stuck out, but I guarantee you I'm gonna bring this up every single time. Joshua chapter 2, specifically 9 to 14. I guarantee you I brought up the whole chapter last time, but this time I'm just gonna talk about 9 to 14. This is when the harlot in the land saves these there's these two spies from Israel. They were supposed to spy out the land. And the harlot like looks out for them, hides them, making sure that they don't get caught up. And the harlot's like, I've already, you guys are from the children of Israel, your God. We've already heard of what your God has already done to these other lands. We're already freaking out, fearing. Will you make sure that my father's house and us are protected when you guys come through and decimate this land? And the two spies said, yes, we'll save you and your father's household. You have to do this specific thing to your house to let us know it's you and your father's house. Separate from that, we'll take care. We're not going to kill you when we come through. That'll always stand out to me. The fact that a harlot had saved, and a harlot being, just in case they hear this on the Rumble, the woman that sells her body for money, saving two spies of Israel and saving her whole household because of that. That'll always just, stick out to me. It's always a pretty good story, pretty good thing to hear. I don't
Good.
know if you guys heard all that. Oh, yeah, you did. You did. Okay.
Yep. It goes to show a very important point. It's not about where you came from, it's about what you do from here on out. It ain't about what you used to be, it's about what you're being and what you will be. And that's one thing that really stands out. You are not what you used to do. You are what you choose to do from here on out. That is who you are. So, yeah, our decisions in the moment don't define us necessarily. However, lifestyles, multitude of choices over time do. All right, go ahead with your second one.
That's it. That's what I got.
Oh, it was just the one?
Just that one.
Ah, surprising.
I
And
All
know.
right.
which chapter and section was that?
So that was, let me go back. Joshua, where's my, did it close? Joshua chapter 2, verses 9 to 14.
Why'd you say that like Frozo?
Like what?
Joshua, where's my?
Oh, I didn't even notice.
I thought you was
There are
gonna
times I
finish it
do
out like
things. No, I didn't.
Joshua,
I should.
where's
I didn't
my
notice.
super suit?
Yeah, had I noticed, I would have finished it. But I
Oh
swear
my
I did.
goodness.
Sometimes I just start doing stuff and I don't even notice I'm doing it.
Oh, that is hilarious.
But yeah, that's what it was. Thomas, Joshua 2, chapter 2, verses 9 to 14.
All right. Okay. One second. Okay, so it's going to be Joshua 3:14 through 16. I'll read it real quick. And it came to pass when the people removed from their tents to pass over the Jordan, and the priests bearing the ark of the covenant before the people. And as they that bear the ark were come unto Jordan, and the feet of the priests that bear the ark were dipped in the brim of the water, that the water which came down from above stood and rose up upon the heap. We have another instance like Moses splitting the sea, the Red Sea, right here, but it's the Jordan River, which is amazing, just so they
Mm-hmm.
can cross. But it's not. Hold on. Yes, just so they can pretty much get to the promised land. God was there with them throughout everything, looking over them, taking care of them. Yeah, I found that pretty cool. Actually did not know that. I may have heard it before, but I didn't like really recognize it. But it's pretty cool. We've got another body of water being parted.
Only that, but this one's parted in a way that
Did he cut off on
extreme
urine, Thomas?
because
Yeah, he cut out for me for sure.
Man, can you
oh,
repeat that?
I
You cut off big time.
I said to me this is more extreme than the Moses one. Because with the Moses one, well, actually, I'll put it this way: what's easier to do, Charles, medically speaking, to slice open a stomach or to cut a circle perfectly in line out of it?
Slice open the stomach. Perfect circle. You said in the second one.
Yeah. Second one is to cut a perfect circle in a singular spot.
I can cut a stomach open anytime. Perfect circles are hard.
Yeah. So the fact that when Moses split the sea and God did that, I think that takes less effort because you just spreading them versus pinpointing where their feet are as they step down to make a little area where the water dissipates to have land where they're walking specifically. The fact that it's pinpoint like that makes it even more extreme than the Moses one, in my opinion. That's what I wanted to point out about that. All right, go ahead, Thomas, with the second one.
Second one is gonna be Joshua 6:20. I think there's a song about this. I'm not sure, maybe, but it says, "So the people shouted when the priests blew in with the trumpets, and it came to pass when the people heard the sound of the trumpets, and the people shouted with a great shout, that the wall fell down flat, so that the people went up into the city, every man straight before him, and they took the city." So pretty much we have here a little bit of context. Jericho's wall uh, fall have fallen, but it's not by the military, but by the power of by God's power. Um, what else did I have for this? Oh, okay, yeah. So because they obeyed his instruction,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit of context before,
How many times did they
but
go around the wall of
a
Jericho before they
little
did that?
too many times. Um, so I
No,
have
that's
here.
it. That's the important part. In verse 15.
I don't have 15. I got 20.
No, I was pointing out because it's part of the same directive section. This is the fall of Jericho. In verse 15,
Yeah, do your
and
thing.
it came to pass on the seventh day that they rose early about the dawning of the day and compassed the city after the same manner 7 times. Only that they compassed the city 7 times. So that was like again where I pointed them sevens, man. So 7 times, perfect number, and then they shout and the walls come down.
Yep.
All right, go ahead and continue. What's your last one?
No, I was just gonna add to that. I was gonna say that victory don't come from our own logic, trying to do things in our own willing way, but it comes through God's strategy. Let Him take lead. And that's pretty much all I had. No other no other sections.
Good. Yep. All right. Now, anything you guys want to add or say before we close it out? All right. One thing I'll add about that last one, Thomas, and what you said, the reason that that is so true more than even you're bringing up is because when you understand God is in control when you're following Him, you've actually never failed. Did you catch that?
Yes,
Do you get
especially
that?
is when this is when you understand. Yeah.
Yeah, when you follow God and understand God, you have actually never failed.
Mm.
Charles, do you get that?
Blow my nose, but yeah, I got you.
All right. Thomas, go ahead, try explaining that.
You're doing everything according to God, willing way for you. So how can you fail?
Nope. Charles, go ahead and
What do you
explain
say?
it. I said, nope.
Uh, uh,
Charles, go ahead and explain
man.
it.
So you saying after Thomas was he said, you're saying in the sense of let's say you're doing all the things you're doing and it's going good for you, good. But when you do something and it doesn't go good, God didn't have it in his will. So I mean you didn't really fail and it's just it wasn't in God's plan for you to do this thing, for you to win in this particular thing. Move on and get on to
Exactly.
the next thing.
That's why, Thomas. Exactly. Even when you fail from your perspective, you're not actually failing if you're following God because you're still going according to his will. And if it was in his will for you to win in that situation, you would have. So you're still succeeding because you're right with God. And your failure in your eyes is actually the pathway to lead to where God wants you from God's eyes. Perfect example of this is Joseph. You could consider it failing, him being sold to slavery. In our eyes, that's a massive failure. That's a your life is a failure. Then he finally gets up a little bit, get brought to the captain of the guard, just for the captain of the guard's wife to try to sleep with him, lie about him, say he tried to attack her, and then Joseph ends up in prison. That's another massive fail. Then Joseph ends up being after giving the interpretation to the butler and the chef, and then one of them, the butler, gets put back up to the pharaoh as he brings one back, and then Joseph gets brought up to being second in command. He gets brought up to being second in command to Pharaoh and get into that position. Now it feels like success, but all those things that were failures, you would not have been in a position to meet Pharaoh and interpret those dreams, and for Egypt to be prepared to save everybody if you had not gone through those illusions of failure. Oh, this is okay. I'm gonna say this. This is a good way to put it. When in God, there is only illusions of failure on your path to success. I like that. When in God, there's only illusions of failure on your path to success. on your path of success. All right. Anything y'all want to add, Thomas or Charles?
He said, "You thought you were a felon, bro.
Yeah.
Your setback was a set up for you." Over there crying. Get up.
Oh, you ain't heard that phrase? I put that in one of my songs. My setback just to set up to a comeback.
Yes, is widely used for sure.
Oh yeah, that's a common phrase. I love that phrase. All right, y'all. I'm gonna go ahead and close it out. Have a good night.